You feel it before you understand it. A quiet shift in the air. A strange pull in your chest. A moment that refuses to let you move on as if nothing has changed. You tell yourself it's just another ordinary day, but deep inside, something keeps whispering your name. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough to make you pause. Just enough to make you wonder why this feeling refuses to leave. And what you don't know yet is that someone deeply connected to you is hoping you'll notice the signs before it's too late. You have ignored feelings before. Everyone has. Those unexplained thoughts that arrive without invitation. The sudden memory of someone you haven't spoken to in months. The dream that lingers long after you wake up. The strange coincidence that happens once, then twice, then again. You brush them aside because life demands your attention elsewhere. But this time feels different. This time the silence itself seems to be speaking. And the longer you ignore it, the louder it becomes. There is a connection in your life that never truly disappeared. It may have faded beneath busy schedules, distance, misunderstandings, or years of quiet. But some bonds do not obey time. They wait. Patiently. They survive storms without asking permission. They remain alive beneath the surface even when everything around them appears forgotten. And today, that invisible thread has started pulling again for a reason you cannot yet see. Someone has been thinking about you more than you realize. Not casually. Not for a passing moment. Their thoughts return to you over and over, especially when the world grows quiet. They wonder if you still remember. They wonder if the distance can ever be crossed. They wonder whether reaching out would change anything, or whether silence has already become permanent. Yet something unexpected has happened that has made those questions impossible to ignore. You may not believe that hearts can recognize each other across distance. But have you ever suddenly smiled without knowing why? Have you ever stopped in the middle of something important because a familiar face appeared in your mind? Moments like these rarely arrive without purpose. They are reminders that not every connection can be explained with logic alone. Some are written somewhere deeper than memory. Somewhere beyond words. And someone has just experienced one of those moments because of you. They didn't expect your name to return so powerfully. They thought they had buried the emotions beneath responsibility, routine, and time. But life has a way of opening doors we thought were permanently closed. A simple conversation. An old photograph. A familiar song playing in the background. A place they accidentally passed. Suddenly everything they believed they had left behind came rushing back. And at the center of every memory, there you were. You may have sensed unusual emotions lately. Perhaps you felt restless for no obvious reason. Maybe you've been questioning things that seemed settled. Maybe your heart has felt unusually heavy one moment and strangely hopeful the next. Those emotional tides often appear before important moments arrive. They prepare you before your mind understands what's coming. But the real reason behind those feelings has only just begun to reveal itself. The person connected to you is carrying something they have never fully expressed. It isn't simply regret. It isn't only love. It isn't just guilt or longing. It is all of those emotions woven together into something that has become impossible for them to carry alone. Every day they convince themselves to remain silent. Every night they wonder if silence is becoming its own kind of mistake. And recently, something happened that changed everything. Life has reminded them how quickly moments disappear. Plans fall apart. Promises remain unfinished. People assume there will always be another tomorrow. But sometimes tomorrow arrives differently than expected. That realization has shaken them deeply. Suddenly the words left unsaid feel heavier than the words already spoken. Suddenly you matter even more than before. Yet fear still stands between their heart and yours. Fear is a strange prison. It convinces people they are protecting themselves while quietly stealing every opportunity for healing. They wonder if you would reject them. They wonder if too much time has passed. They replay old conversations searching for clues they may have missed. Every possibility creates another question. Every question creates another delay. Until one unexpected event forces them to face the truth they have been avoiding. Meanwhile, your own journey has been changing in ways you may not fully appreciate. You have survived disappointments that could have hardened your heart forever. You have carried burdens no one completely understood. You have smiled through seasons that quietly tested your strength. Each challenge shaped you into someone wiser, calmer, and stronger than you realize. But those difficult chapters were never meant to become your entire story. Sometimes the hardest seasons prepare you for the most meaningful reunions. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you become capable of receiving what once would have slipped through your fingers. Growth changes everything. It changes how you listen, how you forgive, how you recognize what truly matters. And someone has begun to notice that change in you from farther away than you might imagine. You are being invited into a moment that demands more than ordinary attention. It doesn't ask you to chase anyone. It doesn't ask you to force destiny. Instead, it asks you to become present enough to recognize what your heart has been trying to tell you all along. The answers you've been searching for may not arrive through noise. They may arrive through one quiet decision that seems almost too simple to matter. But that simple decision could change everything. There are signs surrounding you already. Conversations that unexpectedly circle back to the same themes. Memories appearing without warning. Numbers repeating at curious moments. Chance encounters that don't feel accidental. Whether you see them as coincidence or something more, they share one purpose: slowing you down long enough to notice what has been hidden in plain sight. Yet the greatest sign has not appeared yet. The person thinking of you has reached a turning point. They can no longer pretend the connection means nothing. The emotions they buried have become impossible to ignore. They have started writing words they never send. They have imagined conversations they may never have. They have rehearsed apologies, confessions, and questions over and over inside their mind. Every version ends the same way, with uncertainty about what you might say. What they don't realize is that your story has also been quietly preparing for this intersection. Even when your paths seemed completely separate, unseen threads continued moving beneath every decision, every delay, every unexpected detour. The moments that once looked like endings may have only been carefully timed pauses. And now those pauses are beginning to break. There is something remarkable about hope. It survives where certainty cannot. It remains alive after logic has surrendered. Hope continues whispering that perhaps one conversation could heal years of silence. Perhaps one moment of honesty could erase countless misunderstandings. Perhaps two people who believed everything was over might discover that the story never truly ended. But hope always requires one courageous step before it reveals the next. You may soon receive something unexpected. A message. A phone call. A name appearing where you least expect it. Or perhaps the strongest message will not arrive through technology at all. It may arrive through your own intuition, urging you towards someone at exactly the right moment. The question is not whether the opportunity will appear. The question is whether you will recognize it before fear convinces you to look away again. The truth is that love does not always announce itself with grand gestures. Sometimes it returns quietly, disguised as a simple opportunity to listen. Sometimes healing begins with a conversation that almost never happened. Sometimes destiny knocks so gently that only those willing to slow down can hear it. And right now, someone connected to your soul is standing closer to that doorway than ever before. You have more power than you realize. Not because you control every outcome, but because your willingness to remain open changes what becomes possible. A closed heart sees only endings. An open heart notices beginnings hidden inside them. Every disappointment you've survived has been teaching you this lesson without revealing why. But today the purpose behind those lessons feels closer than ever. The strange feeling you carried at the beginning was never random. It was the first ripple of something much larger moving beneath the surface. A quiet invitation. A gentle warning. A reminder that some moments deserve your full attention because they may never come again in exactly the same way. Someone's heart has reached the point where silence is no longer enough. Someone is standing between fear and courage, wondering which direction to choose. And at this very moment, while you're reading these words, that person may be looking at your name, holding their phone, taking a deep breath, deciding whether the next few seconds will change both of your lives forever. But what they have just discovered, something they never expected, something that could alter everything you thought you knew about this connection, has stopped them completely. And the choice they make next may depend on whether you notice the final sign before it disappears. The final sign will not arrive wrapped in certainty. It will not announce itself with flashing lights or impossible miracles. Instead, it will appear in the ordinary moments you almost overlook. A familiar name crossing your mind for no reason. A feeling that asks you to stop scrolling for just a second. A memory that suddenly feels alive instead of distant. Most people would dismiss these moments without a second thought. But you are not reading these words by accident, and deep down, you already know this feeling has been growing stronger. Somewhere, at this very moment, the person connected to you is standing at the edge of a decision they have postponed for far too long. Their heart is racing, not because they are certain of the outcome, but because they finally understand that living with unanswered questions has become more painful than risking the truth. For the first time in a long time, they are choosing courage over comfort. Yet just as they begin moving forward, one unexpected discovery changes everything. They found something that reminded them of who you truly are. It could have been an old message they never deleted. A photograph hidden deep inside a forgotten folder. A small gift tucked away in a drawer they hadn't opened in years. It wasn't the object itself that mattered. It was what it awakened inside them. In an instant, memories they believed had faded returned with astonishing clarity. They remembered your laughter, your kindness, the conversations that made ordinary days unforgettable. And with every memory came one overwhelming realization: they had underestimated what your presence meant in their life. That realization has unsettled them in ways they never expected. For a long time, they convinced themselves that moving on was the only option. They buried emotions beneath work, responsibilities, and distractions. They filled empty spaces with busy schedules because silence always brought your name back into their thoughts. They smiled for others while quietly wondering if one chapter of their life had closed too soon. Now that certainty has disappeared, replaced by a question that refuses to leave: what if this connection was never meant to end? Questions like that have power. They begin quietly, almost like whispers. But over time, they grow louder than every excuse, every fear, and every reason to stay silent. That is exactly what has happened. Their heart has become impossible to ignore. Every day they promise themselves they will forget. Every night they find themselves hoping for one more chance. And just when they decide to reach out, another sign appears that leaves them completely speechless. At the same time, your own life has been shifting beneath the surface. Perhaps you've noticed that old wounds no longer hurt the way they once did. Maybe forgiveness has started replacing bitterness without you forcing it. Perhaps you've become less interested in proving yourself and more interested in protecting your peace. Those changes didn't happen overnight. They came through difficult lessons, quiet victories, and moments when you kept going even though no one saw your struggle. Every challenge prepared your heart for something you couldn't yet understand. The remarkable thing about destiny is that it rarely rushes. It allows people to grow separately before inviting them back into the same story. It teaches patience before revealing purpose. It strengthens character before restoring connection. Looking back, many of the delays that once frustrated you may eventually make perfect sense. If certain conversations had happened too early, they would have ended differently. If certain doors had opened before you were ready, you might never have appreciated what stood behind them. Timing has been shaping both of your journeys in ways neither of you could fully see. Meanwhile, this person has started noticing patterns they cannot explain. Your birthday appears unexpectedly. Someone mentions your name without knowing the history. A place connected to both of you keeps appearing in conversation. Songs that remind them of you seem to follow them wherever they go. Each moment feels small on its own. Yet together they form a message too persistent to ignore. Logic searches for explanations, but the heart quietly recognizes something else. It recognizes unfinished love, unfinished healing, unfinished conversations. And that recognition is becoming impossible to escape. Still, fear has not disappeared. Fear reminds them of past mistakes. Fear whispers that too much time has passed. Fear insists that reaching out might reopen wounds that never completely healed. But something greater has begun speaking louder than fear. Hope. Hope tells them people can grow. Hope reminds them that hearts can heal. Hope gently repeats that some connections survive distance because they were never built on convenience. They were built on something deeper, something that refuses to disappear simply because life became complicated. And hope has started winning the battle. You may not even realize that your own energy has been reaching them, every act of kindness you've shown. Every lesson you've learned, every moment you've chosen compassion instead of resentment, these quiet transformations have changed you in ways that cannot always be seen but can somehow be felt. Growth has a language of its own. It travels farther than words. And someone who once knew an earlier version of you is beginning to sense that you are no longer the same person they left behind. What they don't know is that you have also been wondering. Maybe you never admitted it aloud. Maybe you convinced yourself the chapter was finished. Maybe you learned to carry on while secretly leaving one tiny corner of your heart untouched. Not because you refused to move forward, but because something inside you never completely said goodbye. That quiet place within your heart has remained surprisingly alive. And now, without warning, it has begun responding to a presence you cannot yet fully explain. The coming days may feel unusually meaningful. Pay attention to conversations that seem ordinary. Pay attention to unexpected opportunities. Pay attention to moments that invite you to choose openness instead of assumption. Life often whispers before it speaks loudly. Those who notice the whispers are rarely surprised by the miracles that follow. Yet there is one final piece of this story that neither you nor the other person has discovered. Someone else knows. Not someone trying to interfere, not someone wishing harm. Someone who has quietly observed the connection from a distance. They have noticed what both of you have been too afraid to admit. They have seen the unfinished story hidden beneath years of silence. And they are holding information that could completely change how both of you understand everything that happened before. This person has been waiting for the right moment to speak. They believe the truth has remained hidden long enough. They know there were misunderstandings that neither of you fully understood. They know decisions were influenced by circumstances that were never explained. Most importantly, They know that one assumption changed the direction of 2 lives, if that assumption is finally revealed. Everything you believed about the past could begin to shift. Right now, the pieces are moving, conversations are aligning, hearts are softening, old walls are beginning to crack. The distance that once felt impossible no longer seems permanent. The silence that lasted so long is reaching its limit. Something is preparing to happen, not through force, but through truth finally finding its way into the light. And just when it seems the moment has finally arrived, just when one message is about to be sent, just when years of waiting are about to end, the screen lights up, a single notification appears. It contains only a few words, but those words reveal a truth neither of you saw coming. And in the next heartbeat, everything changes. The notification is so simple that anyone else would have ignored it. Just a few words, just one unexpected message, just enough to stop everything. For a long moment, they don't move. They simply stare at the screen as if the words might disappear if they blink. Their heart begins racing, not because they have all the answers, but because those few words confirm something they have secretly hoped for during countless quiet nights. They read the message again. Then again. Every time, it carries a different meaning. Every time, it pulls them closer to a truth they have been avoiding. The message doesn't tell them what to do. It doesn't promise a happy ending. Instead, it asks a question they never expected to hear. Are you finally ready? Ready for what? Ready to let go of fear? Ready to tell the truth? Ready to discover that the story they believed was over may have only been waiting for the right season to continue? Those 4 simple words begin unlocking memories that had been sealed away for years. Memories they thought had lost their power suddenly return with astonishing clarity. They remember the last conversation, not just the words that were spoken. They remember the words that were never spoken, the hesitation, the silence, the look that lasted 1 second longer than anyone noticed. The goodbye that never felt complete. In that moment they finally understand something that changes everything. Neither of you truly wanted the distance. The distance simply became easier than vulnerability, and once silence took over, both of you assumed the other had stopped caring. That assumption quietly shaped months, then years, yet assumptions have an expiration date. Eventually the truth grows stronger than the stories people invent to protect themselves. That moment has finally arrived. At the very same time, you begin feeling something impossible to explain. The day feels different. Ordinary tasks seem strangely difficult to focus on.